Okay. Sabaic Theology and the True History of Islam and the World. So, let's go ahead and read the summary about what we're going to be teaching, what we're going to be learning in this presentation. It's about 310 pages long, and I'm going to be adding some videos to this presentation later on. And it discusses Sabaic Theology. Sabaic Theology, for anyone who doesn't know, is the theology of the Egyptians. The Egyptians created one of the first religions in the world. And this involved the worship of planets, most notably the sun. The sun is the supreme god of the Sabians. And the word Saba means student of knowledge, right? So Sabians are the students of divine knowledge, not just any knowledge, divine wisdom, divine knowledge. Okay, they are seekers. They are the ones that seek this divine knowledge and wisdom. So everyone in the world was a Sabian. Okay, everyone in the world followed the theology of the Egyptians. The original Egyptians were henotheistic. Henotheistic is a term that means that they believed in a supreme god. They believed in a supreme god and lesser deities. So the supreme god is the hidden sun, not the sun itself. Amun Ra. Amun means hidden, and then Ra is the sun god, so the hidden sun god. So not the sun, but the spirit of the sun is what they worshipped. Their supreme god was the spirit of the sun, not the visible sun. They don't worship the visible sun, they worship the spirit, the hidden spirit, the invisible spirit of the sun. It can't be seen, you can't see it. God is too exalted to be seen. And that's their supreme god. Their supreme god, as we've said, is the hidden sun. And this hidden sun, Amun Ra, is the one that gives people their spirit and their soul to live. To bring life to someone, you need a spirit and a soul. The spirit is called a Ka, and the soul is called a Ba. And the spirit and the soul, Ka and Ba, Kaaba, and this is where the Kaaba gets its name from. Kaaba is provided by Amun Ra, as we've said. When a person dies, the Ka and the Ba come together, they unite, right? They form one entity, and this entity rises into heaven. It makes its way into heaven through a set of purgatories. These purgatories are the 7 planets, the 7 visible planets: the sun, the moon, Saturn, Venus, Mars, Mercury, and Jupiter. These are called the 7 classical planets, the planets that you can see with your own eye. The sun and the moon, and then the planets that you can see are Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, Mercury, and Venus. I think I didn't mention it. Okay. It makes its way into heaven, as we've said. And it reaches a place in heaven where there are heavenly counterparts. What do I mean by heavenly counterparts? I mean a heavenly double. Every one of us has a heavenly double. A spirit, right? A spirit that's your double in heaven. And so the Ka and the Ba, your spirit and soul, they pass through the purgatories. They're cleansed of their mistakes. They're cleansed of whatever mishaps you might have done. And they make their way into the Akh, to be joined with the Akh. The Akh is your heavenly counterpart that exists in the world of light, in heaven. Okay? The world of light is heaven. And these heavenly counterparts, they have their own realm in the world of light. They have their own kingdom in the world of light. The firmament or the realm of the heavenly counterparts, where the Akh is located, and the Ka and the Ba united. Like I said, the Kaaba joins with the Akh, and Akh actually means brother. It means brother both in Arabic and Hebrew. So it's a very interesting observation. The Kaaba that Muslims circumambulate around, you're going to see Muslims circumambulating around the Kaaba. The Kaaba is the name of the hidden sun. Is one of the names of the hidden sun. He's called the Great Kaaba. He's called the Great Kaaba because he's the one that supplies people with Kaaba. Right? You need the Kaaba to live. Now, this doctrine of the Egyptians was followed by just about everyone in the world before a group of quasi-Hindus, the Amalekites, corrupted this doctrine of the Egyptians. I'm saying quasi-Hindus because I'm not too sure if they followed the exact Hindu theology that we have today, but from my research and my studies, it seems to me that they were, quasi-Hindus. They had so much resemblance with the Hindus. The Arabic sources, for example, tell us that, the Hindus were the ones that corrupted the doctrine. Corrupted the doctrine of the Egyptians, right? How did they corrupt the doctrine? They prayed to idols. The Egyptians did not pray to idols. They were polytheists, still are polytheists. Hindus to this day are polytheists. They worship not the spirit of the planet, but the planet itself. Instead of worshipping the spirit of the planet, the sun, for example, the hidden sun, for the Hindus is called Brahma. Brahma is the hidden sun for the Hindus. They worship the sun, Vishnu, the visible, physical sun, the sun that you can see with your own eyes. And this is considered abhorrent by the righteous Sabians, those that follow the Egyptian theology. This is considered outrageous. Okay, so they are polytheists, they worship idols, pray to idols, and they believe that idols have the power of intercession with their gods. They pray to the planet directly instead of the spirit of the planet. They believe that the earth is a purgatory, so it's not just the 7 planets. Hindus also believe that on top of the 7 planets, the earth is also a lesser purgatory. And so, you pass through the 7 purgatories. If you have some lesser sins, perhaps, you're going to go to earth, serve your time on earth, and then if you've learned from your mistakes and you live a life of righteousness, you can go back to the source of the soul. The source of your soul / spirit is Brahma. Brahma, the hidden sun, as we've said, is the source of the spirit and the soul. But for some reason, Hindus choose not to pray to the hidden sun. They choose not to pray to Brahma, the one that supplies them with the Ka and Ba, the soul and spirit. They also do not believe in the concept of prophecy. Hindus do not believe in the concept of prophecy. Now, the Prophet of Islam was living with quasi-Hindus, with Amalekites in Petra. Petra is in Jordan, and the Amalekites, as I've said, controlled Egypt for some time. For some time, the pharaohs in Egypt were Amalekites. The pharaoh at the time of Moses, for example, was an Amalekite. Not only Egypt, they also controlled parts of, I think, maybe Babylon. Not too sure if all of Babylon or parts of Babylon. So they controlled a big chunk of Mesopotamia, let's say. And some evidence shows, and Dan Gibson agrees with this, that they reached all the way over to Greece. They controlled some parts of Greece. I am going to be discussing all of this. I'm going to be providing you guys with proof of every word that I'm saying. Actually, let me just go ahead and show you something. I am sharing this presentation with you. I will be sharing this presentation with you. You can find the link to my Google Drive. You can find the link in the description, and that will take you to the files, and you can download the file and access this presentation. This presentation, which we're going to be reading from, you have access to it. You just have to click on the link in the description, download the files from the link, and I'm going not just the presentation. You're going to find the presentation. If you just hit the link, like I said, it's going to take you to the presentation. You can download it, but also every book that I've used, I've downloaded. Every book, every web page, I downloaded it and I uploaded it to Google Drive. And so you're going to find the files of the books, the web pages, everything that I've used. You're also going to find it there, if you just click the link on the description, it's going to take you to the presentation, to the books, to the web pages, everything I've used, and you can download everything from there. And this is a link, as you can see this. As soon as I click on this, it shows you the link, right? So this is a link. If I click on it, it's actually going to take me to that page. Okay, and this is going to take some time to load. Okay, you see that? So you just click on the link and it's going to take you to the web page. And I've downloaded this, as I've said, on my device and later uploaded it to Google Drive. So if it's not opening up for whatever reason, you can go to my Google Drive and download it from there. The Prophet, as I've said, the Prophet was born amongst quasi-Hindus. So far so good. He was born in Petra amongst quasi-Hindus. They were polytheists. They believed, they obviously believed in the hidden sun, but they didn't worship the hidden sun. And the Prophet rebukes them for this. He talks about a group of people in Yemen who were also following the quasi-Hindu theology. And he tells them, he says, how dare they, these people, the kingdom of Sheba, he's referring to the kingdom of Sheba, he says they worship the sun, but not Allah. They worship the sun without Allah. This is the exact text from the Quran. They worship the sun without Allah. Right? Because Allah is the hidden sun. So it doesn't make any sense for them to worship the sun and not the most exalted hidden sun. Right? Because the hidden sun is the source of everything. It's the source of the sun, the source of the moon, the source of everything there is. So, like I said, he grew up in Petra, and he starts telling people, he tells people, you need to pray only to Brahma, or only to Amun-Ra, the hidden sun. Now these people, like I said, the quasi-Hindus, for some reason, they don't believe too much in prophecy. The concept of revelation doesn't make too much sense to them. The Prophet was asked, right? They actually wanted to give him a chance. The people in Mecca, aka Petra, wanted to give him a chance. They brought some Jews, and they told the Jewish scholars, look, ask the Prophet of Islam a few questions, and let's see if he's actually a prophet or not. They asked him questions. They asked him theological questions, Judeo-Christian questions, right? Judeo-Christian questions. He knows nothing about Judeo-Christian theology. He knows nothing about Judeo-Christian theology, so he goes to the pagan books looking for answers, and guess what? He brings them answers from the pagan books, proving that he's not really a prophet. Eventually, no one in Mecca, aka Petra, believes in him. No one in Mecca or Petra believes in the Prophet of Islam. It's a big problem for the Prophet. But he keeps on teaching, and you might ask yourself, well, what was he teaching? He was borrowing fables. He was actually reciting fables and legends from different sources, as I'm going to show you later on. Even poems, believe it or not, even poems. So there's some poems or parts of poems that you're going to find in different verses in the Quran. And people soon realize, this guy's reading us poems. There's actually verses in the Quran where the Prophet says, where the Quran says, they say, are we going to, disbelieve in our gods, or are we going to give up our gods for a mad poet? And tell them, oh Prophet, that you're not a poet, or, it's not becoming of the Prophet to be a poet. But basically, he was copying from poems, he was copying from legends and fables and whatnot. And eventually, no one believes in him, they turn their backs on him. Only a small group of people are willing to believe in the Prophet of Islam. And those people are bandits. Bandits. Yes, you've heard that right. Bandits. Bandits and mercenaries and criminals. People, the lowest class of society, basically. People that are looking for an excuse to commit crimes. The Prophet of Islam legitimizes their aims. He tells them that all of their mishaps have been forgiven by Allah, and he tells them that they are commanded by Allah to fight for the sake of spreading Islam, for the sake of Allah. And he tells them that, if they kill an infidel, if an infidel refuses to convert to Islam, you're allowed to kill them and take their money and take their women as slaves. So he legitimized their actions. We're not just a bunch of thieves. No, we're spreading Islam. We're spreading the word of Allah. So he legitimized, as we've said, their aims. He legitimized their goals. And soon enough, he amassed himself a small army of bandits and mercenaries. Soon enough, he was noticed by the tribes of Medina. Tribes in Medina noticed the Prophet, and these tribes that were living in Medina at the time, this is the same location that appears on the map. We said that Mecca is actually Petra, but Medina is the actual Medina located in northern Saudi Arabia. It's not changed, it's the actual location. So, tribes from Medina up to no good approach the Prophet. They meet up in Aqaba, that's in Jordan. It's literally on the Red Sea. So they meet up. He comes down from Mecca. They come from Medina, and they meet at the middle in Aqaba, and they hold a conversation, and they hold a couple of meetings, and they decide that the Prophet is going to immigrate to Medina. And you ask yourself, well, why is the Prophet immigrating? What's the purpose of his migration? He was migrating to form a base for piracy. Yes, you heard that correctly, a base for piracy. Okay. And soon as he reaches Medina, he sets some rules. Especially these rules are targeted towards the Jewish people. And he tells the Jewish people that if we start a war, if we go into war with someone, you guys have to fund this war. And because these are a group of bandits that are constantly robbing caravans, they were in plenty of wars. He tells the Jewish people that they're not allowed to leave their homes. He also states that if a Muslim wrongs a non-Muslim, Muslims are not to help the non-Muslim against the Muslim. Muslims cannot help a non-Muslim against a Muslim, even if the non-Muslim was wronged by a Muslim. Even if the infidel was wronged by a Muslim, Muslims are not allowed to defend the infidel. He comes up with even more extravagant rules. He tells them that if a person converts to Islam, if someone converts to Islam and his brother chooses to stay on whatever religion he used to follow, if his brother decides to remain an infidel, then he has no claim to any inheritance. And his share of the inheritance goes to one of the Muslim brothers. Goes to one of the Muslim brothers from Mecca that immigrated with the Prophet. So if someone from Medina converts to Islam, his brother doesn't, that brother, the infidel brother, loses his share of the inheritance, and the inheritance goes to one of the Meccan Muslims from Mecca. He goes to wars, he goes to many battles with the people of Mecca, and he goes to battles with the people of Mecca because he was trying to choke them. He was robbing their caravans and he was disrupting their trade, and the people of Mecca were trying to be patient. And the reason that they were trying to be very patient with the Prophet is they had many of their children fighting with the Prophet. Many kids actually were trying to make quick money, right? Many kids were trying to make quick money. And so they followed this piracy group that the Prophet created. And the people of Mecca were facing a serious dilemma. The people of Mecca were facing a serious dilemma. Are we going to kill our own children? What if someone kills my child? Am I to avenge my child from this person that killed him? Am I to seek vengeance? Even though this guy is fighting on my side. So it was a real dilemma, If someone kills your child, are you going to go ahead and kill them even though they're your teammate? They're fighting alongside you against your child. Eventually, the people of Mecca could not push back against the Prophet. They had a serious dilemma in terms of killing their children, and they surrendered, and he took over Mecca. They surrendered, and he took over Mecca. That's what happened. And this feeling of dominance, it grew stronger in his head, and he decided that he was going to start invading territories in the southern regions of Saudi Arabia, in the southern regions of the Arabian Peninsula, Yemen, and the place the eastern parts of the Arabian Peninsula, basically where Riyadh is today, the capital of Saudi Arabia. He was also invading in that region, and he was invading in Yemen. Now, you ask yourselves, why did he decide these two locations specifically? There was a group of people living in these locations, and these people are called the Mandaeans. The Mandaeans, okay? The Mandaeans are a Gnostic group. Gnostic, what does Gnostic mean? It means Sabians that mix Christian or Judeo-Christian stories and biblical events into their teachings. These are corrupted biblical events. These are corrupted biblical stories that they mix up with their Sabaic theology and Sabaic stories. So this was actually one of the ways that they were dealing with Christianity. Gnosticism is one of the ways that they were dealing with Christianity. They kept the Sabaic theology, they kept the Sabaic deities, but they included corrupted versions of the biblical events. And they claimed that we have the true biblical events, and you guys, Christians and Jews, have the false narrative. You have the false events that happened. We have what actually happened. So, these Mandaeans, they were a formidable group at the time of the Prophet, and they ruled Iraq, they ruled Yemen, and they ruled the eastern part of the Arabian Peninsula. So Iraq, southern Iraq, they were ruling over southern Iraq, they were ruling over eastern Arabian Peninsula and Yemen. Okay, and they had 3 kingdoms. The one in Iraq was called the Lakhmite Kingdom. The one in the eastern part of the Arabian Peninsula was called the Kindite Kingdom, and the one in the southern part of the Arabian Peninsula, that's in Yemen, was called the Himyarite Kingdom. These were Mandaean kingdoms that were vassals of the Sassanid Empire. Okay, the Sassanids were Zoroastrians. The Sassanids that were Zoroastrians and the Mandaeans, both of them were following the Egyptian doctrine, the original Egyptian doctrine. They are monotheistic. They worship Amun-Ra, they worship the hidden sun. So, what happened is that the Lakhmite king at the time, like we said, the Lakhmites were living in southern Iraq. The Lakhmite king was called Al-Nu'man bin al-Mundhir. Nu'man, that's his name, and he had a brother. His brother's name was Muawiyah. So far so good. Muawiyah, the founder of the Umayyad dynasty. Muawiyah and his brother Nu'man converted to Nestorian Christianity. And there were many Nestorian Christians in Mesopotamia. There were so many Nestorian Christians. Nestorian Christians are Christians that believe in one God. They don't believe in a Trinity. They believe that God is one and Jesus Christ is a prophet. Okay, there is no Trinity for the Nestorians. And the Sassanid Empire, in fact, pushed for Nestorian doctrine. They pushed for the Nestorian doctrine because they were afraid that the Trinitarian Christians would side with the Byzantine Empire against them, because the Sassanids were fighting against the Byzantines in the Levant, in Egypt, in Turkey. And so what happened is that when they saw people converting to Christianity in the Sassanid Empire, they told them, look, we don't have a problem with Christianity so long as it's monotheistic Christianity. If you guys are converting to Trinitarian Christianity, that means you're with the enemy, you're with the Byzantines. So they pushed for the Nestorian doctrine, the monotheistic Christian doctrine, and they held a capital for the Nestorian Church. The Nestorian Church had a capital in Seleucia, just across the river from the capital of the Sassanids, Ctesiphon. And this is so they can keep a close eye to these Christians. Right? They wanted to keep a close eye on the Christians, the Nestorian Christians, so they built an empire just across the river from them. They built a city, a capital, just across the river from their capital. So Muawiyah is born in this environment. Him and Al-Nu'man, they're both Mandaeans. They give up on Mandaeism, and they convert to Nestorian Christianity. And they rile up, right? They rile up all of these Nestorian Christian tribes. All of the Nestorian Christian tribes, they rile them up and they start fighting against the Sassanids. This was after the Sassanids had been through a very long war with the Byzantines. Their forces were depleted, they were hemorrhaging money, and things were looking bad, let's just say, for the Sassanids. They were weak, and the Nestorian Christians realized that, and under the command of Al-Nu'man, they marched against the Sassanids. This happened around the year 628 AD. By 634 AD, the last of the Sassanid kings, Yazdegerd, was killed. After they were done with the Sassanids, they headed to the Levant. They wanted to start fighting against the Byzantines, the Trinitarian Christians. So they head over to the Byzantines, and in a few years they managed to take over the Levant, Jerusalem, and they even take over Egypt. So back to the Prophet. 628 AD, like we've said, the Nestorian Christians start fighting against the Sassanids. Around the year 630 AD, the Prophet decides to do what exactly? He decides to march towards the Mandaeans in the Kindite and the Himyarite kingdom. That's eastern part of the Arabian Peninsula and the southern part of the Arabian Peninsula. These people had lost the protection of the Sassanids. As we've said, these kingdoms were vassals of the Sassanid Empire. So he marches towards them, and soon enough he's killed. According to the Muslims, he was poisoned. Okay, he was poisoned by a man called Abu Bakr. Abu Bakr, the man who poisoned him, was a Mandaean, and he took over Mecca and Medina. After he killed the Prophet, he took over Mecca and Medina. The Muslim story claims that he was a friend of the Prophet and he was sort of a disciple of the Prophet, but that's not the case. Okay, I'm going to be proving this to you. Everything I've said, I'm going to be proving it to you with links and evidence and everything. So Abu Bakr starts to create Islam. He was a Mandaean neo-Muslim. I like to use the word neo-Muslim, meaning he was one of the first Muslims. He was working on creating Islam. He destroys all of the original copies of the Quran. The Prophet had Qurans at his time. At the time he was alive, he used to write down whatever verses he received or claimed to have received, and the Mandaeans, the heretic Mandaeans, were trying to create a new religion. This time, without the Sabaic theology, without the Sabaic deities. they wanted to hide the Sabaic theology and they wanted to hide the Sabaic deities. And we're going to see the hidden Sabaic theology and we're going to see the hidden Sabaic deities in the Quran. Okay? There's actually names of Egyptian deities in the Quran. At the very top of every surah in the Quran, you're going to find the names of Sabaic deities. So, he starts working on a new Quran. Like we've said, the agenda is that they are looking for a new super Gnostic religion, a super Gnostic religion that hides the Sabaic theology and hides the Sabaic deities and claims to be on the same level as Christianity and Judaism. Within the first 2 years of Abu Bakr's reign, he destroys all of the original Qur'ans and he comes up with fake new Qur'ans. Right? He comes up with modified Qur'ans that fit his agenda. 634, right? The Prophet was killed in 632, as we've said. Abu Bakr took over in 632. In 634, the Nestorians marched against the Byzantines. And when they marched against the Byzantines, they went over to Medina and they killed Abu Bakr. That's in 634. Abu Bakr died. They placed one of their own. And that person's name is Umar bin al-Khattab. Umar bin al-Khattab was a Nestorian, an Umayyad Nestorian. So they placed Umar bin al-Khattab, and the new ruler of the Mandaeans, like we've said, the king al-Nu'man and his brother Muawiyah left Mandaeism, they converted to Nestorian Christianity, and they started fighting against the Sassanids and later the Byzantines. So, what happened is that a new ruler was placed over the Lakhmites. The Lakhmites had a new king called Iyas bin Qabisa. That translates to Elijah in English. And Iyas bin Qabisa was later named Ali bin Abi Talib. Islamic sources later refer to him as Ali bin Abi Talib. Was working on creating Islam. He was also one of the neo-Muslims. He sent people over to Medina to kill Umar bin Khattab. Umar bin Khattab was replaced by Uthman bin Affan. Uthman bin Affan was also killed by a bunch of mercenaries, also sent by Ali bin Abi Talib from Kufa in southern Iraq. And Muawiyah had had enough with Ali bin Abi Talib or Iyas bin Qabisa, and he sends an army over to southern Iraq. From the Levant, he sends an army to southern Iraq to avenge Umar and Uthman. The army was not successful in killing Ali bin Abi Talib. Ali bin Abi Talib was later murdered by Mandaeans, righteous Mandaeans that refused or rejected the new religion that was being created. Okay? They rejected the new religion that was being created, and those people killed Ali bin Abi Talib. And the whole point of this new religion, aka Islam, was to destroy the Nestorian Christian Church. The whole point of it was to destroy specifically the Nestorian Christian Church. And the name Muhammad, actually, the name Muhammad, was used to mean the name of Jesus. Muhammad, I might have to show you this to explain it, but the name Muhammad in Arabic is written the same way as the name Jesus is written in Syriac. In Syro-Aramaic, the name of Jesus is written in a very similar way to Muhammad in Arabic. So, Muhammad became a name for Jesus, basically, and it also, in Arabic, it also means the praised one. I'm going to explain this further. But like I said, this was a personal issue on many levels, and that's why the history of these Nestorians, the history of the Umayyads, was destroyed. In the year 750 AD, I think the Umayyads started in 630 something, 630. Around the year 630 AD, the Umayyad Empire started. In 750 AD, the Abbasids, those are Muslims, destroyed the Umayyads. They kicked them out of the Levant. The Umayyads fled to Spain, and later they followed them to Spain and obliterated them and took over Spain from the Nestorian Umayyads and destroyed all of their history. They wiped their history clean. But like I said, this was a personal issue, and that's one of the reasons. I think this is the most important reason for why Islam was created. I'm going to be discussing all of this, and I just want to say this is how this presentation is going to look. So every paragraph, this paragraph you see here, this paragraph you see here, right? It starts with the source of the information, where I got the information from, and then this is copy-pasted. I literally copy-pasted this from the book, and I'm going to be commenting on it. So I'm providing you with the exact text from the book, copy-pasted. I'm going to be commenting on this text. You guys are allowed to form your own opinions. Okay, I don't want you to say, oh, he's changing this, he's changing that. You guys can form your own opinion. Okay, I'm going to be sharing with you the text. I'm going to be sharing with you the link. I'm going to be sharing with you the files. You can download the book and read it with your own eyes. You can see it. But like I said, 310 pages of raw information. Raw information. I'm going to be commenting on this information. So we have a lot to cover. And a lot to uncover, obviously. And in the next lecture, we're going to read the summary that I've told you. There's some more information here that I'd like to cover. And then we can start reading about Moses Maimonides, one of the most infamous Jewish scholars of his time that spoke about the Sabians. And we're going to read what he has to say, and we'll move on from there. Thank you guys for watching. Till next time.